591 Studios. This is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network with producer Blake Tempus and co-host Dale Rueber. I'm Jim Gillespie. This is the Jesup News for June 10th. Tonight we talk with Chris Even about recycling in Jesup. We tell you why you should fish, perhaps. We talk about state soccer a little bit. We talk about D-Day. We talk about Jesup News. We look at Farmers Day as that's coming up in about a week here. We talk about Littleton Free Watermelon Day. We give you the weekly updates of the Steve Brown Arts Center. The Steve Brown Arts Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has a vision for artists, young and old alike, to have the opportunity to better themselves while helping to build the skills of those around them. The long-range vision is to house a rural artist residency program for professionals and emerging artists in all areas of the arts and the humanities. Artists will be offered accommodations and studio space in exchange for a contribution of labor and maintenance of the buildings and grounds. So tonight, we're going to start first by interviewing Mayor Chris Even from Jesup. So welcome back, Chris. This is your third time?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, third time. So welcome back. So Chris, what's Jesup got going this summer right now? As far as construction, anything on the streets or anything?
We don't really have any major projects this year. Mm-hmm. We're planning a project up on Prospect Street and possibly 6th Street up around the school area.
Mm-hmm.
That would be probably for next summer, though.
Okay.
I mean, we'll have a few small street repair projects, stuff like that.
Right.
Nothing major this year.
Then how goes the new waterworks out there, the sewer area out there?
So we've got everything running through the new treatment plant now, and it's taken some time, but it's getting up operational where it should be.
That's awesome. I'm sure John's happy about that. So
yeah, everything's working pretty well out there right now.
Good. I'm glad.
The contractor's still got a few things to finish up, but the main stuff's done and plant's operational.
Yeah, cool. So, Chris, we want to talk a little bit about there's talk about let's talk about recycling in Jesup.
And the garbage and recycling together. It's all together, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, garbage and recycling in Jesup. First off, we have the recycling area down by the post office down there. Tell us about that a little bit, would you?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what started some of these discussions. Was there's problems with people putting stuff in there that's not recyclable. You know, some of that I think is people don't understand what's recyclable, but some of it's just plain garbage. I mean, you got bags of just plain garbage.
Someone had a spool of chicken wire that they'd apparently had out, and they pulled it out, and so all the dry grass and everything was in the wire, and then they just threw it down in there. And
and then if the bins are full, people are just leaving stuff outside, and then it blows around and creates a mess for the neighbors in that area. And the other thing is that our price to operate that is about doubled in the last year.
It is. What's it cost us to operate?
It's about $25,000 a year now. It varies depending. There's a fee for them to come pick it up, and then they charge by weight of how much they empty out of there.
So who is doing that now?
That's Black Hawk Waste.
Black Hawk Waste is the people they come with that truck and they load it up and they do the cardboard also, or
yes.
Okay.
But between the commingled recycled and cardboard, it's about $25,000 a year that it's costing the city.
Okay, and so they charge the city to provide that service.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any money in any of that stuff anymore, or like the cardboard? Is it sold?
I think the cardboard is the easier of the ones to recycle. The plastic and stuff I know is a lot more difficult to find people to recycle it. Yeah. Obviously, some of it but
on 60 Minutes they said it's the plastic industry put all that recycling stuff together, knowing that it's not recyclable, and I think they were saying 85% of plastics is not recycled; it goes to the garbage.
Yeah.
And so there's no money in that at all. And plus, the plastic industry was afraid that the plastics were getting a bad reputation, and so they were trying to make themselves look better, even though what they were doing wasn't really ethical or true. And that was the 60 Minutes report. And so, makes you wonder if you should be looking at all those little triangles and all the plastic stuff, and just throw it in the trash because it's really not worth the effort to recycle it. And so, Thomas James sent out a letter to their customers. I got it just today, and they were saying that since China stopped taking plastic, there seems to be no market for it. A simple online search will show the state of plastic recycling in the United States. It says when the recycling market improved, we will be able to provide that service. And so they even talked about how the recycling of plastic is just not there.
So I think Coley told me that something like 80% that goes into a recycling area, not just in Jesup, but in the world, is not recyclable, is waste, I believe, which is remarkable. You know, that's you and I growing up, and I'm sure Dale, you remember this. The roads were terrible. There was garbage everywhere, and we've changed that, except we put it in an area now instead. And I'm not just talking Jesup, I'm talking everywhere.
Right.
So anyhow, let's go on. So we have this problem with recycling. So let's talk about the CAP students. We don't need to give their names on the air here, but let's talk about the CAP student that did the study for you. What was their study and what was their idea?
So I was told that there was a group of CAP associates that were interested in looking at curbside recycling for the city. And I knew that the city had looked at that about 10 years ago when I worked here, and it was very controversial then. So I was a little bit skeptical, but I said, I'll meet with them. And we talked about what happened 10 years ago and some of the challenges that we had. And they were still very much interested in looking at curbside recycling. They were very passionate about it. Mm-hmm. So we kind of turned them loose to work on it. And I didn't hear a whole lot from them until the end of the semester. They thought they were ready to present to the city council. So me and the public works director, and Coley might have been there too, I think sat down and they kind of gave us a presentation. They were looking at the council, and we thought it looked good. So I think it was April, our first meeting in April, I think, is when they first presented to the council. I thought they did a great job. They did a lot of research on it. They talked to all the different solid waste collection vendors. They actually visited a sorting facility for recycling, talked to other communities to see what they had, see what they were paying. So they had a really good presentation, but the council asked if they'd sought any public input, and they hadn't at that point. So the council kind of challenged them to get some public input on it. So they put out a survey. It was on Facebook, and then they went around to the businesses and posted it at the businesses, a link to the survey. And they had, I think it was like 290 responses.
Oh my, that's a good number.
Pretty good for the size of Jesup.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed a strong interest in possibly getting curbside recycling. There were a lot of comments that people said, I'd be interested, but I don't keep Thomas James. And there were some people, that obviously weren't interested in curbside recycling, but the survey overall showed a pretty good interest in it. When they came back and shared that with City Council at their second presentation, the council basically said that it looked like it was something that was worth looking into. So we decided to send out an RFP and get prices. The CAP students' research, when they were talking to the vendors and kind of what other cities were paying, showed that it would we could possibly get curbside recycling and solid waste collection through one city contract for the same or less than what people are paying for garbage collection right now. But we weren't going to, a lot of the vendors didn't want to give out hard numbers, obviously, if the city was going to do an RFP. So that's kind of where we're at now, is we're doing the RFP to get prices back and then see what can or can't be done.
So what do you have to do now if you want to have a garbage route in Jesup? Because I know there are several companies that do. What do they have to do?
You just basically have to get a license from the city.
Okay.
I think it's only like a $25 a year fee or something like that.
And there's no limit to the number of licenses you give out, or
no.
It's just. And are there 4 now? Do you know? Or I'm trying to think how many.
Probably 4.
That's what I was thinking. I saw at least 4.
I think we just added Kleesner.
Okay, I don't know who that is. But,
it used to be Thomas James, Blackhawk Waste, and Waste Management.
Okay, Waste Management is the one I could remember the name of, but yeah.
And Jesup's the only city that I know of that everybody just contracts individually for garbage collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Usually either the city picks it up themselves or they have a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So is there a benefit to having, if you had one company, would they pay for the privilege of working in Jesup, or how would that work? If you bid out, so that one company was doing it all.
Right. I think it's more economical, definitely, for a company to come and pick up 1,000 households compared to 100 households. Mm-hmm. So usually you get that economy of scale and you bring the price down.
The price for the homeowner or whatever. But the city government or the city treasury, would there be any benefit to them as far as, would you sell a franchise, or how does that work?
We would just do a contract. Then the city would do the billing on the utility bills.
Oh, okay.
So that customers won't have to pay the garbage company directly.
Oh, I see.
The city would cut a check then to the solid waste collector.
Okay, which would actually be a big benefit to the company also, if you just got the one check instead of all those
Exactly.
other. Yeah,
You don't have to collect you don't have to collect
and the city's already sending the bills out, so it's just adding one more line to them.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
What is, I noticed I was in one of the local businesses and I saw a petition to keep Thomas James. I've never heard that the city wanted to get rid of Thomas James.
When we looked at it 10 years ago, Thomas James was not the cheapest. And I don't know if that's what they're afraid of. We do an RFP, but it doesn't necessarily need to go to the lowest bidder. It can be a qualitative process where you consider other factors, and Thomas James might not be the cheapest, but the city could still select them.
Yeah. Right. In the letter they sent out today, it says, our small family-owned business would certainly be underbid by a larger company. So that's what they're... My neighbor has a truck that comes, and there's one guy driving the truck, and it has a lift, and it picks it up and dumps it in the back. And then Thomas James comes to my house, and they come twice a week instead of just once. And they got guys, jump out, and they're actually their jobs. They're working.
Yep.
And maybe it's old, but I kind of like the idea that there are those kind of jobs available for people.
Right.
And so I know I had a professor, and she was a special ed teacher in Omaha for many years. And she said that when Omaha went to that kind of mechanized one company and doing with the trucks, a lot of the people that she worked with lost their job because that was a job that they could do at that time. That was, I'm talking about 30 years ago or maybe more than that. But she said that she hated it when technology eliminated the kind of jobs that there actually were people that could do those jobs, and the benefits to themselves and society would be far greater than one guy, say, in a truck, just dumping it with the machine. So I've been I like the idea that they have guys working on the truck and making a living.
That a lot of them have trouble finding people to do that.
Well,
job.
I would think
and
so.
You got the small family-owned company. They can probably recruit people easier than the larger companies.
Yeah, it makes a lot of difference too.
And I believe I think one of you said Thomas James comes twice a week.
Yeah, they come Tuesday and Friday. Yeah.
Okay. So and I don't live in city limits. They come once a week to my home in the country. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the other three do.
They're once a week.
Well, something else you'd have to think, and I'm not selling anybody here. I'm just saying, like when you talked about, there's other things to consider besides price, and like Thomas James, and I know I'm on the Farmers Day board, and they've gotten rid of our trash for us for years. They never charge us anything. Yeah. And it talked about how they've spent thousands of dollars in 50 years supporting local businesses, to buy tires and Swannerose Lumber and the B&B store when it was there, and Joe's Pizza and all the Leafwiller's Garage, and Sparky's DX way back when. And during Farmers Day, we haul the garbage for free. On Jesup Cleanup Day, we provide a man and a truck and only charge for landfill fees and fuel costs. And then we also provide pickup for larger items such as appliances, furniture, and other large items. And so when you talk about that's the kind of service people are willing to pay a little bit more for. Right. So I'm glad you're saying that it's not just price, that's the final consideration as far as how much it would cost.
That was actually one of the questions on the CAP students' survey was, would you be willing to pay more for Thomas James? Mm-hmm. And by far, the majority of them said yes. Some of them even quite a bit more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So where does this stand now? Is there any kind of motion on the table? Anybody talking about this? Or
we're just waiting to get the RFPs back at this point in time.
Okay, RFP says requests for
proposals.
Proposals, okay.
So basically, we'll get prices from the different contractors.
Yeah. But you wouldn't have to do anything, would you?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No, so the city could look at it and say, no, we don't want to make any change at all.
Okay, yeah, okay. So people are getting all excited. They're jumping ahead of they're
right. Yeah, this is actually a very slow process.
Yeah. Well, that's the way government is supposed to work that way, I guess. Through. Yeah. Okay.
It is. You know, it's unfortunate that people don't realize that, you know, it just takes time, and you haven't made any changes.
Right.
These young ladies tried to help. They weren't trying to hurt anyone.
No, and they made a request to the city council. They're not the ones that are making the decision. That's going to be in the hands of the city council.
Yeah.
I don't want to put any more responsibility on them than.
Well, they were doing actually a
brought it to
service
our
for the city.
attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, they were looking at something and say, well, let's find out about this, and which is a good thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's good that they get involved that way, I think.
To your credit and Mike and Coley's credit, you know, you guys listened, and you know, that's what we want out of education. We want to educate students and give them the opportunity to learn, which is wonderful. What would you like our listeners to know that we haven't asked you, Chris?
Just that we hear their concerns. I think some of them feel like they're being ignored, and they're not. We hear what they're saying, but there's people very passionate on both sides of the issue. Some people are not going to get what they want. And I hope that just everyone respects the process, and the city council makes their decision. We can move on and keep in mind all the other great things that are going on in Jesup, and
Yeah.
not let this drag us down.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is not the kind of thing that should cloud the works for 5
Right.
years, you know.
Yeah, we have a lot of great things
Yeah.
going on right now. that
Yeah,
people
but
sometimes forget about.
The recycling's a mess, you know, and all these other. But I hope so too. And there's always something like this. You
And
know.
it's not bad to have
No.
controversy every now and then.
Yeah,
People are
because-
paying a little bit more attention to their city government.
Yeah.
You know, last fall we didn't even have anybody run for city council. So
Yeah.
maybe people will be a little bit more interested now.
Well, I'm
you
trying
go.
to remember over the years, like for years, like people would have crumbling sidewalks, which were a real tripping hazard and this sort of thing, and nobody did anything. And then all at once, somebody said something to somebody, and all at once there was a movement to, you need to repair your sidewalks and
Yeah.
fix them and this sort of thing. And so sometimes that's how it works, is that somebody brings it up and somebody else says, yeah, that's a good idea, and we've been ignoring that too long, and they do something about it. And I think that's the way a lot of small towns work.
Well, Chris, thank you for coming in and sharing with us. It is without hearing your side, you know, a lot of people just make assumptions.
Yep, I agree with that 100%.
So anytime you need to come on, don't hesitate to let us know, and we'll gladly.
Yep, no, I
let you
appreciate the
share.
opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network, and we're back. We'd like to thank some of our sponsors: Reyes Concrete, the Littleton Lounge, Third LLC, and Littleton Chatham Historical Society, Laces, and Joe and Judy Olson, to name just a few. Dale, do you believe in that there are people from other planets or aliens from other planets
Coming here or just in existence?
in existence?
Yeah, I statistically, you would say yes. There has to be other people out there somewhere. Space is so vast, and they are now locating stars like ours, and then counting out the planets that are about the same distance from that star that we are, and saying life possibly could be there. And they're constantly looking for water sources, because life as we know it needs water. And so and somehow they can look at a planet through a telescope and decide if there's water on it or not. I don't know how they do that. So, but statistically, I would bet there are, yes.
There is such a thing called the Fermi paradox. It was Enrico Fermi. He was involved with Oppenheimer.
Okay, I've heard the name. Yeah.
At down in New Mexico when they built the atomic bombs.
But I want to know why aliens, when they come to Earth, only talk to hillbillies from Arkansas. They never land and talk to an MIT professor or anything. Why is that?
Well, now I've got a few things for you here.
Okay, all right.
And I will tell you why. I will answer that question.
All
for
right,
you,
that's
Dale.
what I like, is answers.
Yes, a few things. You talked about statistics, and there are probably 11 million planets like ours in our universe, just in our universe.
Okay. 11 million?
11 million.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, like ours.
Yeah.
Now, there are other planets.
Yeah.
If that is true, one day Fermi went to lunch with a number of scientists, a guy by the name of Teller, Kaminsky, York. They went to lunch in 1944, right about the time that they were making the atomic bomb.
Sure, yeah.
And he sat down at lunch and he asked the question, where are all the aliens? You know, the scientists wanted to know, where are they?
Yeah.
Well, in 1938, Fermi won a Nobel Peace Prize on particles. He was into physics, worked at Los Alamos, and Fermi claimed that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial beings. Mm-hmm. You know, that there's no evidence, and his theory said there has to be, though, there could be. If you look at it, there are hundreds of billions of stars, hundreds of billions. Mm-hmm. Not, you know, the numbers are astronomical.
Yeah.
Many of those stars have suns like ours that would allow beings to survive. Mm-hmm. Copernicus said back in 1500 years ago that the Earth is not the center of the universe. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he was one of the first to say that the sun was the center of our universe. Some of those extraterrestrials may be able to develop more advanced technology than ours.
Yeah, that's always the fear, isn't it?
Yes, yes, there is. But who knows if they're going to use that technology for space travel?
Yeah.
And if they do use space travel, what if they take off in the other direction from the Earth? You know,
yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
And Fermi always asked the question, why haven't we met aliens? Mm-hmm. Why haven't we met any aliens other than those hillbilly friends that you're talking about?
Yes.
You know, but
the space people like those hillbillies in Arkansas. Yeah,
they do. Now, some people argue there's a man by the name of Hart that took the Drake equation. I tried to write it down, and Dale.
I understand.
Yeah.
You said equation. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And so I won't bore our listeners with that. But the Hart asked this question. He said maybe those aliens are physically unable to come to our.
Kind of for transport is not
okay. Yeah, to transport.
Okay.
Maybe they choose not to.
Well, that's true.
Who would want to come and be around me?
Yeah.
You know?
I ask myself that all the time.
I understand. Maybe they lack evolution. You know, maybe they haven't evolved to the point that we have. Mm-hmm. Or, Hart argued this. Maybe they were here before humans were. And that's a good argument.
That's kind of the premise, like, 2001, where they left behind the black, the shape. And so, you know, when it gave out the signal, when the monkeys started using tools on Earth. Then when they got to the moon thousands of years later, and they dug up another one, and it sent out a signal saying, okay, they've gotten to the moon. And so it kind of was keeping track of. That's the way I always interpreted it anyway.
Yeah.
That movie.
Yeah.
And so it could have been that they are playing with us, and so.
Well, and here's the issue that we face, and they would face as well. How do we travel with water and food across galaxies? Mm-hmm. You know, you can't store enough food for hundreds of years.
Yeah, a lot of them, they put them to sleep.
Yeah,
they have them sleep through the journey.
But still, you would have to have an IV giving
something.
Them.
Yeah.
To keep them alive.
And somebody's got to be there to something goes wrong.
Yes.
Like how?
There is the argument that we may be the only place that wants to do this, mm-hmm. that cares about this.
But that really seems unlikely, though.
Oh, it does. It does.
I heard a radio play, so it probably was in the 40s or the 50s. on my car radio. It was a play, and it was about someone who came from another planet and was walking around in the city, and a police detective figured out there was something about this person. And so she started explaining to him after they got together that this is from the Old Testament, that there were a lot of these planets that were seeded throughout the universe, and that those planets now, all those planets had no disease, no sickness, no crime, that sort of thing. And so they sent people to this planet, to our planet, to kind of study and learn, what went wrong with this one. Yeah. And they said, and the premise was, on every planet except ours, when Eve offered Adam the apple, Adam said, "No, I won't take it." But on this planet, he took it, and that's where what the change was. It was a very interesting.
Yeah.
And hearing that, and that's right at the end of the show, and you go, "Oh," and then okay, so. Something more to think about, I guess, if you're thinking about stuff. But I always thought that was something really to think about.
Carl Sagan said that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, that's true, too, yes.
We only have access. We only have access to 0.1, and I'm not talking by space travel. I'm talking by a telescope and everything, sending out the sound waves. We have access to 0.1% of the galaxy that we can reach. 0.1%.
Yeah.
So imagine 99.
0.1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And third, I don't know if it was Sagan that argued or Hart, but there is the argument that if you traveled, you would have to skip from planet to planet and use those planets as stations.
Oh, yeah. Because that's kind of what you're talking about, thinking about the moon now, is that they need to make the moon into a station where rocket ships on the moon, it'd be less of a problem for them to take off, like to go to Mars or whatever, because there's the gravity situation and everything. So I can see that.
Yeah.
Just,
Now here's one thing that I want to end with this, that people don't, that gives people hope that there's something out there, is within the last 5 years there was a meteor or a planet traveling throughout space, but it didn't have the cone. And a lot of that is ice traveling in the outer space.
Sure.
As it's going very fast, it develops that triangle cone.
Yeah.
Well, this particular one didn't have a cone, and no one could explain it. I think it was called the Oumuamua. It was seen in Hawaii.
Okay.
And they named it Oumuamua, and no one understood why it didn't have the cone. And they started to argue, well, maybe it was sent. Maybe it wasn't the same thing as the other planets are made up of.
Mm-hmm.
A Harvard physicist, and there's still arguments among scientists that it was made by a being.
Mm-hmm.
It's millions of miles away.
Would it have killed him to chisel a little message in there, like, if you find this, call, to take all the doubt out of it,
Hey, Dale and Jim, we're coming. We're coming.
Yeah. Hi, a little note from Alpha Centauri or whatever. So, wishing you a Merry Christmas.
But I thought that was real interesting. I listened to that on conspiracy theories recently. Is where I got that story from. And I mean, it is like anything. It's a conspiracy. You don't know.
Well, yeah.
It's hard to. And here's the last thing I want to leave you with.
Okay.
Before we go on, what if we are an ant and the aliens are building a 10-lane superhighway, and we just have no idea?
Yeah.
They're so giant and we're nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
This Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Dale, what do you have for updates on Farmers Day? Farmers Day is about a week away here.
Yeah, not too far. The 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
Yeah.
And we have I don't know what to call it, but the Old Town Jesup is being put up in where Parker's Furniture Store and Chevrolet dealership was, right here on Young Street, down east of the Farmer's Wife in that area, that open lot there. And you'll see a recreation of the old town, the businesses that were here, I will say 100 years ago. I'm not sure what time, maybe not 100 years ago, but you'll see the fronts of these businesses, and then they're building an interior to the barber shop. And then we're going to have a little program there 3 different times during Farmers Day where someone will talk about the history of Jesup. But these boards were painted mainly by Craig Wright, I think, back in '85 for the pageant. And then we used them again in 2010. And then, of course, they've been stored in Alan's garage. They still look really good. And they fit together. You can't believe how well they're engineered. You know, they got there are 4x8 sheets of plywood in their hinge, and one it pops up. You got a 2-story building, and they hook together and make a street, and it's really quite neat. And so the City Boy's been helping putting those up this week, and so you can drive by now and see them. It looks really nice. So anyway, that's being done. So pretty soon you see the beer tent go up. The carnival guy is committed to coming. And the wrestlers are coming, and I see where the wrestlers are going to be in Hazleton.
I saw that.
Yeah, and so they're professional wrestlers, and I don't think they're going to wrestle anybody out of the crowd.
Yeah, they're not calling Blake out of the crowd.
Yeah, because I had that all worked out, in my mind. But
yeah.
So, but the Hole in the Sock gang, we have a lot of they are a cowboy outfit that holds shootouts in the streets, and they're doing that several times over the 3 days, and are a lot of fun. You will enjoy that. The Prince and Princess contest, we have, they said 19 princesses and only 3 princes, so you can still get in.
That's good.
But they're going to have that, and then Ball Vance and Powers are going to play that's Thursday. Friday at 1 o'clock, the wrestling is going to be there, and the Hole in the Sock gang and everything, and the giant Jenga near the gazebo. That's your baby.
Yep.
Right there. I hope people will stop by and try that out. Talk with the Barber. That's Thursday, also Friday.
You are the barber?
I'm the barber, yes. So back when we did the pageant, I played Jim Bloom, the barber. He was quite a man about town in his time, and one of those guys everybody knows. And he actually had there was up where the school is in that area. They had a horse track, and he was quite a horseman. He had horses and raced them and everything on that track up there, and so was very well known in the town.
Right.
And so it's kind of fun because I did him in '85, and then in 1910 my son played that same role. We did the pageant over again. It was kind of fun, except in 2010 it rained. And we never did it. We did the rehearsal, and then we never did it until, I think, Saturday afternoon. We brought everything downtown and did it. I swear it rained every day. And we were up at the football field, had it all lined up, and a lot of work, and cords all over, and everything was underwater, all the electrical stuff. And we said, couldn't do it. And so I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Saturday, the big parade. Pancake breakfast, I always got to plug the Presbyterian ladies. They've been so good to me over the years. But that pancake breakfast is from 7 to 9:30. It ends right before the parade and the parade lineup. And people are still calling, wanting to get in the parade, and that's great. The Bosco and Independent City Band is going to be here again right after the parade. And the Iowa State Fair Talent Show is in the afternoon. And the Steve Brown Art people are going to have Greg Dietrich as a jazz trumpeter, and Chet Reagan is a rock, country, pop, bluegrass, and folk, plays the guitar and sings. And I'm missing one. Who am I missing? David and Lisa Lang are playing the alp horn and other instruments.
Yes.
That's all in the gazebo, so I hope you'll stop by and listen to them. And this Richie Lee Variety Show, in the past he's done like 50s and 60s rock and roll, and I'm assuming he's still doing that same kind of thing. I can't see him going to heavy metal or anything like that. That would be really something. So, okay. So, and then Bill Crastle is here on Saturday night, and the Detour Band. And then Sunday, I believe the pastors in the Ministerial Association are going to have a church service downtown in the gazebo in the morning, or not in the gazebo, but in the pavilion. And then there's a gospel, free ice cream and gospel singing in the afternoon on Sunday. So that's kind of...
Who's singing the gospel? Do you know?
Bill Crastle, he leads that.
Okay.
And usually there's 100 to 120 people show up for that, which is... and we have the ice cream machine going, and so... and people bring cookies and everything, so it's just kind of like an old-time ice cream social kind of thing. So,
yes. I love those.
Yeah. When I was in college, if people talked about ice cream social, it always involved beer and no ice cream. So, but that's what they called it, I guess, for some reason. So that's kind of Farmers Day. I could mention the Co-work 591 event calendar for June is out, and on the 10th, that's today, Bringing the Chai is the food truck here from 11 to 2. And then on Tuesday, the 11th, there's a pretzel making class at 6 o'clock. And if you RSVP to Kelly at cowork591.com, you can learn how to make pretzels, which you got to get that little bow in there somehow. Or
Well, what's a pretzel made of, Dale? Help me.
it's well, I would assume it's like some kind of a bread dough.
Okay.
I would assume, and they make a little rope out of it and twirl it around a certain way and bake it and put some salt. I don't know. So anyway, it's a pretzel making class. You could come to the class. I bet Kelly would love to see you. That's Tuesday. That's your work day, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Salt and cheese. I could eat a handful of salt and cheese. That's what I could eat. And I'm not attacking the event.
That's right. But it just sounds like instant heart attack to us, doesn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
The Bowls of Love food truck is here 11 to 2. Have they been here before? Do you remember?
Yes,
Have they?
they
Okay.
have. Yep.
I'm not. What do they have? Do you remember?
I don't recall.
In fact, it sounds like it'd be like soup or something.
Yeah.
Bowls of Love, but
Sort of like a Chipotle type of deal, I'm guessing.
okay.
Right.
Well, I don't even know what that is. I just roast beef and potatoes is kind of as far as I go. And then Bear's Fire Grill from 11 to 2 on the 14th. That's a Friday. Is for the coming week. And remind everybody the high school baseball and softball teams are in full gear. So if you like to watch that, it's just look at your school's schedule. And there's a lot of games going on. I think I looked. My grandson plays in Hudson, and as of this morning, he had I think 9 home games and 8 away games yet to play just in June.
Wow.
And so a lot of baseball. So if you're interested in that, support your high school baseball and softball teams.
Well, Dale,
Kids do a nice job.
let's talk about your grandson a little bit. Your grandson played in state soccer.
Yes.
Tell us, what was that event like? I've never been to state soccer.
Well, this is my first time too, and they have a soccer complex for the city of Des Moines, and it's Des Moines. I'm sorry, I said the S on it. You get off at 235 on 14th Street, and you go south, and I can't remember the name of the street now, but it's kind of like going out in the woods. Mm-hmm. You're driving through a tree-lined, 2-lane road, tree-line, and then you get to the end, and there's 8 soccer fields there, and also some baseball diamonds on the other side. And so a nice field. Every field's got its own scoreboard. And Hudson played Iowa City Regina. And a lot of those Iowa City schools, you pretty well specialize. You're going to be a soccer player, you're going to be a basketball player. And you could tell that these kids, and this was a senior-dominated team, and Hudson had, I think, 3 seniors, which makes, just the difference. And you could tell that those Iowa City kids, just their nimble feet and the way they handled the ball, that they had played an awful lot of soccer. And so they ended up winning. Iowa City won 3-0. Mm-hmm. But it's a good experience for the kids, I think, to go to state, and you get a little banner to take back to your school and a little trophy. And you kind of see where you're at, I think, when you play a really good school like that. If you play in your own conference, you learn a lot. But I think if you go and play a school like from Iowa City or whatever, you learn an awful lot, especially kids that specialize a lot in.
Well, there was a big upset in that class.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What, 8 beat 1 or something like that?
North Fayette Valley from West Union won the state tournament in that class, which was a giant upset in that class.
But in the first, I think it was in 2A, they're different, but 2A, who was it? But I think the number 8 seed beat the number 1 seed in the first game of the tournament. So soccer's a funny game because that ball, it bounces a little bit, and then all at once, whoa! Or there, you just kick it in, or you hit it with your head, or the paper said one school they bodied it in. I don't know how that works, but said the guy must have been on the ground, or maybe it hit him off his chest or something. I don't know. He bodied the ball in, and so it's a crazy game where nothing happens, and all at once it's just there.
Yeah,
it's open and you can get it, and so and I don't know if you've seen these. They have a corner kick. You ever seen them? They corner kick, and some of those kick that ball. It's an elliptical, kind of kick, and they kick it out and it curves and it goes right in that net.
Right.
Because in the corner and the net are straight from each other, but they kick that ball on, it curves and it goes right in the net. There's a lot you can do with soccer that I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So
the issue with soccer in small schools is there are so many sports in the spring right now.
Yeah.
With a school the size of Jesup, we have golf and
track and field.
Then you have AP.
Well, then the baseball, softball teams start practicing pretty early.
Yeah.
Also,
but AP has tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have tennis, and then you have soccer. There could be 4 sports going on. School the size of Jesup, it would be hard to run 4 sports. That's one of the reasons why we share with independents.
Well, one thing they did do this year is that they allowed kids to play in more than one spring sport.
Mm-hmm.
They had to declare which was like their major sport. And I know like Jack Miller, I think his major sport was golf, but when he wasn't golfing, he did track and field.
State champion.
Yeah, he's a state champion doing it part-time. And I know my grandson was on the golf team and also playing soccer. And then also going to baseball practice when he had time to. They work these kids hard anymore. But I think that was a good thing, is it allowed kids to do a couple different things. Because like in the golf, you could be on one of the 12-person golf team, but only 5 of them get to go to the meets.
Yeah.
And so the rest of them need something else to do. And so they practice golf and they compete to see who gets to be on the team for the competition. But then if they don't make the competition team, then they can go run track that night or go to soccer practice or something. So I thought that was a good thing they did for the kids. But like, you're right. There's only so many kids and so much time, and to do all those sports, it's hard.
It is.
Hudson had a problem because last year they were Hudson, I think, Union, maybe LaPorte City. Because when you add those 2 classes together, they were in 2A instead of 1A. So they're playing bigger schools, and the team they were associated with only sent 1 player over, and he hardly ever played. So this year they said, we'll just do Hudson and play the smaller school. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
It is.
But it's bad for the kid.
Right.
At the other school because now they don't have that opportunity to play soccer, but it knocked them up a class, and they got no benefit from it. So
this is Steve Brown Art Center Podcast Network. We're sponsored by Derek's Repair LLC, Jacobson's Fabrication Repair LLC, Even Events and Rentals. Mayor Even was in, and he also was talking about he had to go set up a tent in Allison.
Yeah, tonight.
Yeah,
in the rain. So he has a big event there tomorrow, I guess.
Yes. So we're also sponsored by Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster and Dream Chaser Acres. So Dale, do you remember the first concert you went to?
Concert as in like a band concert?
Band concert.
Like a popular group where you pay money to go to.
Yeah.
Well, I was in Disneyland in 1967, and the group that sang "Along Comes Mary,"
right?
They were playing. It's an outdoor venue, and so you just walked by and listened to them if you wanted to. I think the first concert I ever went to was at UNI. It was a group called the Association.
Okay.
And they were real big in the 60s, had some huge songs, and they were doing the college thing. This would have been in 71 maybe. So they were there. And then there was a band called Chase, and a lot of those guys were killed in a plane accident later on in their life. But
I didn't realize that.
They were playing. And they played in the old men's gym at UNI. You ever been in there? Yeah, that's where the concerts were. And so it wasn't the greatest venue, but I remember the first I was sitting behind. I was in the balcony, sitting behind a pole.
Yeah.
And somebody yelled, "All right, everybody, squeeze to the right." So we all squeezed to the right, and I had a perfect view of the stage. And somebody else had the pole. So I thought, that's pretty lucky, So it worked out. Yeah, but I remember those 2 for sure, and I've been to several since then.
Interesting.
Why did you ask that?
Well, they talk about there's great benefits of live music.
Oh, okay.
People feel uplifted it just brings happiness.
Yeah.
There's one of the reasons. I tell you, we have three. We have Belvins and Powers out at the Littleton Free Watermelon Day. We have the McBrides.
Chet Reagan and Mandy are there, right?
They're not this year.
Oh, okay. They were there last year, though?
They were there last year. Chet is here in town this year.
Yeah.
People are drawn to live music. It takes them away from their troubles.
Yeah. Well, I was at 3 live music shows over the weekend.
You were?
Yeah. It was Little Shop of Horrors. Have you heard of them?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's a musical that kids. It was high school kids put it on in Ypsilanti, Michigan. It was really very good. And so the best part is this plant needs human blood to live. And so the kid who's taking care of the plant has been feeding it, he's pricking his finger and feeding it, but he's running out of blood. And so he's in a moral dilemma. He says, I can't be killing people for this plant or anything. And then he notices this hoodlum type guy slapping a girl that he's really interested in. And he says, that guy looks like plant food to me. And I thought, that was really great. So I just love that.
They talk about live music actually alleviating depression.
Yeah, I can see where that would be.
Improves physical health. Get out and support the live music, please. As we have much of that this summer here in Jesup and Littleton Independence.
And it's amazing to me how people are drawn to that. To perform.
Yeah.
First year I was a head resident in the room next to mine. There were 2 guys in the room, and they decided to form a band. So in there playing their guitar and bass hour after hour. This is not good. So I had to, 10 o'clock, we need to quit that that night. But they got a drummer and a singer, and they started performing at the Tiger Lounge. And so when they, every now and then they'd be down there. Deb and I'd go down and listen to them play for a while just to kind of support them because they were in my house and everything. And just something made them want to play.
Yeah.
And they just got some instruments and started practicing. And so some people are really drawn to that.
One of the regrets I have is that we can't play more live music on here. We have people that ask us to play music and we've had some shows, but I'd like to be able to play hits on here.
Sure.
And you've got to have a certain license.
Oh, is that right?
Pay for that.
Yeah.
And financially, it just doesn't work for us right now.
Yeah.
So,
well, you and I could sing for free, I bet.
We could.
If we sang the wrong song, we'd have to play, or we'd have to pay royalties. And
lose all our listeners, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Dale, we're a little behind times. This is, what is this, the 80th anniversary of D-Day?
Yeah.
I know you have a little bit about that.
I looked some stuff up, and because I saw in the news today, these 4 old guys, all of them are 100. The youngest one was 100, and you figure they were teenagers when they landed on D-Day. The greatest amphibious operation ever to take place. And if you watch Saving Private Ryan, and that depicts the landing on D-Day right at the very beginning, and it'll scare the bejeebers, and it's just a movie, but it'll scare the bejeebers out of you just because, there's bullets flying all over, and there's no place to hide. There's no place to go. You run forward, and that's all you can do, and just either you get shot or you don't. And so that was a great, it lets people know what it takes to do that sort of thing. Then there's another movie that I like for D-Day. It was called The Longest Day, and they're at Normandy, and the German officer in charge of the bunker there, where they're observing the ocean, just feels like something's wrong, so he goes out there and spends the night with the men. And they're just kind of playing with the dog and looking. All at once, he looks out and the fog lifts, and there's like 10,000 ships out there coming in. He goes, whoa! But 1 minute there's nothing, and the next minute all you can see is ships on the ocean. And you think, what a great feeling that must have been for the Armada company, but also the chill that went through him saying, oh my God, we've been watching for 3 years, and now all at once, there they are.
Yeah.
And so I always got a big kick out of that. What D-Day, do you know what that stands for? D-Day?
I knew this.
If you knew an answer, then you were wrong.
Invasion of Europe.
Yeah, but why do they call it D-Day?
And I knew this. I can't
okay.
remember,
All right.
Dale.
Okay. It's just a space filler. They're writing out the plan, and they put D-Day because they don't know the exact date yet, or they don't want to spy to get a hold of the information and know exactly when it's going to happen. So they put it's just like a space filler. Okay. So how about for the time? Remember the term they used for the time it was going to happen?
I don't understand the question.
Well, like it's going to happen at 6 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock during the day. What time is it going to happen? D-Day is the day, and what do they call
0
it?
hour.
Well, 0 hour would be good, yeah. They're talking about H-hour.
H-hour.
H-hour, and I had not heard that for a long time, but I remember that.
Okay.
Now, the H-hour was when they would kick it off, and so. Okay. So,
it was a day late, I believe, because of the weather.
yeah, that was another question I was going to ask you.
Sorry.
But okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's supposed to be on June the 5th, but the weather was bad, and so they put it off one day, and the weather was still bad, but I thought, well, they'll never expect us to come with the weather like this, and so he said, go ahead and go. And he had two statements written, one if it worked and one if it didn't. He had them both ready to go, and so he didn't really know what was going to happen. They've been planning this for years, and they had a rehearsal on a beach in England, and the rehearsal was actually worse than the real thing. They lost, I don't know, several hundred men, and things just didn't go well at all. So there's a lot of trepidation about how this whole thing is going to happen. But
Did you want high tide or low tide, Dale?
yeah, I'm not sure. I would bet low tide, but I don't know because you would want the water out so you could you could get out in the water But some people did drown. I mean, they had all that weight on them, and they stepped off that boat and they went down and never came up. And so, I mean, a lot of guys never got on the beach. That ramp went down, the machine gun there, and just killed everybody in the boat. Let's see, on that day, 156,000 Allied soldiers.
That's counting the parachuters too, right?
Yeah, the ones that, I think there are 18,000 of them. But I think these 156,000 Allied soldiers that first day, 4,000 killed. These are just rounded, 4,000 killed. Within a few days, they had 326,000 people on that beach, landing on that beach. And more than 50,000 vehicles and 100,000 tons of material and equipment. And that was by June 11th. So once they got a beachhead there, they started, really ramping up. And you just think, all that stuff had to come from the United States to England, be transported to England in a staging area, and then had to be from England, had to get into France. Mm-hmm. And so you think about, okay, you're in charge of supplies, get it there for us. I mean, holy cow. It was called, you remember it was called Operation Overlord.
Operation Overlord,
yeah.
Yep.
And Dwight Eisenhower was the general put in charge. And it's kind of interesting because General MacArthur once said of General Eisenhower, well, he was one of the best clerks I ever had. So not a lot of love lost there, Richard. So about 7,000 ships, 11,000 aircraft participated in that first day. And by the end of June, 850,000 men had landed and 150,000 vehicles. So just a huge operation. Huge operation.
We used to talk about this in class. Imagine, I've taken 20 people over to Europe before.
Yeah.
I can't imagine landing 340,000 within 7 days.
Sure. Yeah.
And then having the supplies, is unfathomable. The planning that went into it.
Yeah. I read about the beach landings in World War II in the Pacific, and they were saying that how you had to load these ships so that the last things in would be the first things off. And so you had to load them backwards, kind of, to make sure. And that you would think about it, but one of the first things you needed was a typewriter, because to send orders and messages, in the heat of battle, you don't want a lot of handwriting. You want, and somebody that can run a typewriter. And so there's a lot of things to think about, and somebody's got to know what they're doing. Yeah. And this would be 10 times that big. I mean, just huge. So they landed June the 6th. By the end of August, Paris was liberated. The Germans had been removed from northwestern France, and so the Battle of Normandy was over, and the casualties topped 226,000 that would be killed and wounded. So a lot of people.
We talked about before the show how hard it would be to put together a fighting force of that magnitude, and knowing the casualty rate.
Yeah, to be the person that says, okay, go.
Yeah.
What a weight that is on you. And then also to understand that you may not make it back. This may be the last day of your life, because you're going into harm's way in a big way.
Right.
And so I find this very interesting. It's called Pas-de-Calais was the closest French coastline to England, and that's where Hitler always thought they would come across because it's the shortest distance. And we talked to, I think, several weeks ago about this Phantom Army. Mm-hmm. These guys. Well, they had a Phantom Army in England, and they put Patton in charge of it, and they had inflatable tanks, and they had people on the radio all day long with messages going back and forth, talking to nobody really, but just something for the Germans to intercept, thinking there's a lot of people there communicating about supplies and logistics and this kind of stuff. Had double agents. The Germans had a lot of agents in England before World War II, but it wasn't very long after it started that most of them had been captured. And they weren't reported. They were just, okay, here's the message we want you to send. So they had them sending false information, enough true information to check out, but enough false information to keep the Germans off balance. And so they used them as double agents.
Right.
And so that was what they were doing to keep the Germans off guard. And the Germans planted 4 million landmines along Normandy beaches. That'd be like 50 miles of beaches, 4 million landmines. And that's still a big problem today, is where armies put landmines in, then they leave, and the landmines. There's still people in Vietnam being killed by landmines. Actually, every now and then in Europe, there's an explosion, or they find an old bomb. They're digging in a basement or something.
Yeah.
And so a lot of ordnance out there. The United States shipped 7 million tons of supplies to the D-Day staging area. It all came from the States on ships. 7 million tons, and that included 450,000 tons of ammunition. That's a lot of bullets and, artillery shells and that sort of thing. So anyways, a thing I want to get across to people today, and I'm sure they know this if they've any kind of age to you at all, but it was a huge operation, huge responsibilities on people, and just tons and tons of material, and thousands and thousands of men had to all come together at the right spot and do the job. And I don't think we'll ever have a huge scale attack like this again with the modern weapons that we have. It just would be, it's just, what, 2 or 3 terrorists in that building, and you got 6 or 7 guys try to weed them out, and that's I don't know, it's just, hopefully we'll never have a huge land war like this again, because I guess the closest now would be the Russian.
Ukraine,
yeah, where they have a lot of troops on the ground and going back and forth over the same ground.
Right.
So anyway, June the 6th, the anniversary, the 80th anniversary. And so this is the day that turned the tide of the war. They got in to mainland Europe, and that was the end of it.
I have a rather unique story. The first year we went to Ireland, we were traveling up in northern, not in the country or in the region of North Ireland, but in the Republic of Ireland in the north part.
Yeah.
Near the sea. And it's much like the invasion point of Normandy. Mm-hmm. And we were walking in a village, the players and the coaches, and all of a sudden we started seeing a bunch of World War II soldiers walking around this village, and there were bunches of them. Mm-hmm. And finally, curiosity got the best of one of the players, and she walked up to him and said, "What's going on?" And they said, "We're filming a movie with Tom Hanks in." Ah. And it was they were filming Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan. So that was our claim to fame.
Well, sure. That's great.
Yeah. That's
great. Now, Ireland, the Irish, they hated the British so much that they actually were pro-German.
Right.
For a lot of this. And if you read Irish history, it's hard to blame them, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a complicated world we live in.
It is.
Always has been. So
this is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Thank you, Dale.
Oh, you're welcome.
The this Saturday at Jesup Farmers Market, we have the Steve Brown Arts Center sponsoring the Big Brass Blast Band.
You're still pushing that, aren't you?
I am pushing it. And it is a group of brass players from you and I.
I certainly hope they're brass players.
And they're playing for a couple hours from 9 until 11 on the stage down at the picnic pavilion.
Yeah.
So please please come down and enjoy the music and just some young guys. You might see Dale and I dancing around a little
boogie
bit.
woogie to the brass quartet, or are they a quartet? Or
it's just a bass, the big brass.
It's a big brass blast band.
Yeah, last week Dale and I could say it 4 times in a row.
Well, our tongues are older now, so you're a week older. So.
It is. The Steve Brown Arts Center is looking for ideas and looking for donations. If you'd like to donate to the Steve Brown Arts Center or have an idea for an event, go to the SteveBrownArtsCenter.org and follow the link. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@SteveBrownArtsCenter.org or call me at 319-290-0241 and leave a message. As we get real busy in the summer here, make sure that you go down to the picnic pavilion and eat on Thursdays at you used to run that. What's that called, Dale?
Lunch in the Park.
Lunch in the Park.
Yeah.
That is
the library's doing it tomorrow, which is too late, And I'm not sure who's doing it. We're in now.
Oh, how wonderful! That's where I'm eating lunch tomorrow.
That's a potato bar.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. So, how was it, like a baked potato with thick chili on it?
Yeah,
it's pretty darn good. Or even broccoli and butter is good, but I like it with a chili on. So
yeah. So that may be where I'm eating tomorrow. We'll see. I'm back on my diet again.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
As we talked about, the Farmers' Day is the 20th through the 22nd of June, and then the 27th of July is Littleton Free Watermelon Day.
And the splash pad is going in the southwest part of town. I should get the ad. I can't remember the name of that street, but I guess it's getting a lot of use from what I'm hearing.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm Jim Gillespie with co-host Dale Rueber and our producer Blake Tempus. And as always, thanks to Cowork 591 and Kelly C. Haas for allowing us to use their facilities. Thanks to the audience for bringing these stray dogs into your day. And remember, each day is about little victories.
Very